Welcome to episode 24 of the 15-Minute Coffee Podcast with Brandon Salazar, your go-to destination for expert perspectives and valuable insights from the world of business. Today, I'm here with Rodney Galeano, an executive vice president of operations at Experior Global. Thank you for joining me today. Let's get started with the first question of, tell me about your early life and career that led you to where you are today.
Well, Brandon, thanks for having me. It's good to be here. And I got to say, I love that you're in your car. So right before this started, you told me that you're at work and you got called to work unexpectedly. You know, you had this set up for a little while with me now. So this is like your break that you're taking at work, and you're doing it in the car right now in the parking lot.
Yeah.
I love the hustle, man. That's great. So yeah, thanks for having me. So what was the question again? I just had to point that out, right? Like, doing it in your car, just starting this podcast is super cool.
Thank
So
you.
kudos to you, man. I love the hustle.
Thank you. So the first question would be, tell me about your early life and career that led you to where you are today.
Yeah, so I graduated in supply chain management from college. I started working in your analyst roles, eventually led to being a manager in a distribution center. Started managing a section of the warehouse, on the outbound side to a bigger part of the outbound department. Eventually getting to manage, more of the warehouse, to the whole warehouse as a general manager. Jumped around a couple companies and went from managing, small sections of the warehouse to bigger parts of the warehouse to an entire warehouse, to multiple entire warehouses, eventually until I managed the warehouse network. In there were some transportation fleets as well. So, in my last role, I was the head of warehousing for MyDia, managing about 10 facilities across the country. And now I am the head of operations at Experior, doing something very similar, managing a warehouse network and a fleet of transportation, just doing distribution across the country, making sure product is getting to our clients efficiently and effectively.
Yeah, so that goes into the question of how did you actually get started in the supply chain industry? What drove you to seek your passion in this industry?
Yeah, it was hard. I knew that I wanted to be in business. And, when I was a sophomore in college, I was trying to figure it out, just like every other college student. I had your finance, your accounting, and all your type of majors that were popping up. Supply chain caught my attention because it was up and coming. The demand was growing tremendously. I think one of the stats that stuck with me is that, at Penn State, they said that 99% of students that graduate will have a job placement within 3 months. So that's how I knew that it was in such high demand. And then I started looking into it a little bit more, and I knew that I was going to be able to start in a leadership role pretty quickly and managing people. And, I looked at, my strong suits, what I was good at. And, I married it perfectly with an operational setting where I was able to manage people and get some leadership experience, which is what I really wanted. I wanted leadership experience as quickly as possible. This way I can, kind of grow in a managerial structure.
Yeah. And what was a pivotal moment in your life that or decision in your career that just significantly impacted where you are right now?
I was really into IT. When I started in college, I wanted to learn coding and I wanted to learn everything about the internet world. So at first, I think I was really driven in IT. And as I started to dig into it a little further, I realized that it was not what I thought it was going to be. So it was very behind the computer, in meetings all day, more like project management, consulting type of roles at first. And, it didn't match my personality that much. I'm an extrovert. One of my strengths is communication. And I didn't see myself getting that in IT as much. So whether I was going to get it, 5, 10 years down my career, I quickly realized that I was probably better off in supply chain. So I think that was probably a big shift in my career, realizing that what I thought I was going to be doing during the first year and some change of college wasn't actually what I was going to end up selecting. And I'm glad I made the change. I've been in supply chain now for close to 10 years and I love it. So I'm extremely happy that happened the way it did.
Yeah, so a lot of dilemmas like this actually lead to like a further understanding of oneself. So like for example, there's like in software engineering, there's a lot of like roles. So for example, like technology strategists, technology strategists, they're more of critical thinkers, soft skill. They rely on soft skills. They understand technical skills. Their strong suits aren't technical skills like coding and stuff, but they understand it. So like that's kind of like a similar dilemma to what I'm kind of figuring out what I want to do in that industry right now. So I'm kind of understanding that I'm not really a hard coder. I'm more of like a strategic thinker. So that kind of goes with like more information systems. That's like why I choose to not major in computer science. Everyone's like, why aren't you majoring in computer science? All you do is code. But like it kind of goes with the fact that it's not really who I am or want to be.
Yeah, for sure. And the reality of it is in supply chain, that experience will take you really far. There's a lot of coding that happens, in supply chain with Excel. We work on Excel with so many workbooks and so many macros, and I've seen people advance very quickly when they know how to do that really well.
Yeah,
Just data
learning
and
yeah, learning Excel VBA is very well.
make the data valuable, right? There's a lot of raw data that's out there. Making it um, valuable to the company is important. What actually is worth it in this data set? Thousands of line items, in some cases like hundreds of thousands. So how can make a dashboard that actually allows people to make intelligent decisions with the data? And it goes much further than that, but knowing how to manipulate that data is really important for sure.
Yeah. And then this would actually go into this question of what skills are essential for leadership in supply chain industry.
I think that there's probably so many different skill sets out there. Um, there is there's a lot of different skills that are needed. I would say, for me, leadership is how you can influence your team and get their buy-in to accomplishing the team's mission. And having the leadership to lead your team to getting to that to accomplishing that mission. Forming a culture where everyone wants to be a team player, work with each other, where everyone wants to work a level up, and where no one is saying that's not my job, where there is fair accountability across the board, where roles and expectations um, are aligned right at the beginning of the team establishing. And of course, it ultimately comes down to caring about your team. Caring about your people. People want to work for somebody that is inspiring, holds them accountable, and provides constructive feedback to make them better. And what that means is having a leader that cares about where you want to be in a year, in 2 years, in 5 years. How that leader is going to help you get there. How that leader is going to give you some good constructive feedback to improve your style and your leadership. Every quarter, every 6 months, every year. Having a leader that's honest with you and that's going to really go out of their way to make you better. Again, so many different skills out there. There's CEOs that are focused very much on sales, and they're finance superstars, and they're going to turn around a P&L. And then there's CEOs out there that are more on the marketing side and on the product side. And, they care a lot about the technology evolution of the product and the marketing side of everything. So many different styles. I think a lot of them, there's a lot of different ones that can be very successful.
Yeah, and I think even with customer experience, it's like let's say obviously there would be a log. There's like I know there's contracts against this if but in like a shopping lot, let's say there's five pizza places, right? People are gonna go to the
Okay.
pizza they have the best customer experience with. It's the same thing with building a team and a company. So, I mean, obviously, I know this for a fact that there's contracts that you can't actually do that because it's not compete. You can't compete with like five pizza places in a shopping center, but it's about like what value you bring to the customer also, because it's at the end of the day, you have to meet certain basic requirements, have good pizza, have good this, and if it's like about customer experience, I feel like that just relates to customer experience in a way.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, it's like your secret sauce, right? There's certain experiences that make you remember where you're at and what you're doing.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
there's pizzerias that you can never forget, right? For whatever reason it might be. But at the end, it's definitely, how you go out of your way to make that customer experience impactful, going that extra mile. It's kind of like that whole thing about, it's not, people don't remember what people say, but they remember how they made them feel.
Yeah,
And,
of course.
in any type of pizzeria, you might have the guy in the front that has an incredible personality. He's welcoming you in, he's smiling, he's saying a joke here or there, puts you in a good mood. And he's got good pizza, he's got like the cheesecake right at the entrance of the fridge, and he's got ranch that comes with every slice. And it's like the little things where they're already giving you the pepper and the cheese with your pizza instead of you having to ask for it. They're giving you the napkins, all those different things for sure.
Yeah. And so what would you be your best advice for college students?
I think that the best advice I would give is know where you want to be in 5 years and 10 years. I would focus more on the long-term strategy. I know a lot of people come out of college and they want to make a lot of money. They want like their dream role, their dream job, and I get it. But if you focus on where you want to be in 5, 10 years, that might change how you're going to start your first year, your second year. And that might change your decision completely. If you focus on what you're going to do your first 2 years, you might not get to where you want to be in 5, 10 years, ultimately with whatever that might be.
Yeah.
So if you kind of focus on your end goal and then you start your strategy from there, I think that's kind of the best way to get to your end goal. And there's a lot of different things people want to accomplish. Some people want to climb the corporate ladder, some people want to get out of it pretty quickly. Some people want remote work and they want to travel the world, and some people want to live in LA and some in New York City. So how you get there is always going to change depending on the destination. So you know I always say that focus on where you want to be, and then you can form a strategy on how you're going to get there.
Yeah, definitely. And this being our last question, what does supply chain mean to you and what makes it so special? It's like to your daily life, because of course it's something you chose to do for your life. So what does it mean to you? Why is it so significant?
I think that I realized how impactful supply chain is in our day to day. If you look at anything that is tangible and we're able to touch and feel, it has a supply chain behind it. Whether it's this monitor or this desk or this cup, there was a supply chain that got it from the manufacturer all the way to the consumer. And I realized that, there's a supply chain tied to everything that we see, whether it's the car that you're in or, the technology that we're using. And, with all of the manufacturing that's happening overseas and with all the outsourcing, I realized that supply chain is going to be a pretty big part of every company and every business out there. And a lot of the times that's why there are chief supply chain officers and chief operating officers that know that side of the business really well. And it's a really important pillar of a company. Maybe like 30 years ago, it wasn't so meaningful, but I think that, now, and if not now, definitely in the future, and I would say even now, it's just as important as your finance department, as your marketing department, and all the other really important pillars in any company. So I knew it was a career that was going to become more and more valuable. So, I'm always interested in those things. I wonder, how they made this item, and I wonder, how they brought it all the way over here from Thailand and India and China and all these places where this product comes from.
That's what actually caught my eye about supply chain. It's just like very intricate, like and challenging, as well as like there's so many things you could do. You could be on coding, you could be on like logistics, operations. There's just so many things, and it's all fascinating to me. That's what actually got me into it.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, supply chain is long, right? From start to finish. It's got a lot of different nodes to it. You could be on the procuring side, the manufacturing side, the quality side, the inventory management side. Um, it really almost feels endless. There's so many different teams that fall under a supply chain, and very similar in your accounting and your finance and your sales and all the other big roles out there. So yeah, I mean, of course, we're biased, right? We're supply chain guys, but yeah, I wouldn't have changed it, even if I had the chance to do it today.
Yeah. And as that wraps up, thank you for sharing your insights and expertise with us. That wraps up episode 24 of the 15-minute coffee podcast with Brandon Salazar. We hope you've enjoyed getting insights from our guests and exploring the world of business with us. Feel free to check out our podcast on our social media, the 15-minute coffee podcast on YouTube and Instagram for upcoming episodes. Until next time, stay curious and keep learning.